So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for carving some time out of your day today. You are here for San Francisco Association of Realtors update on our settlement changes and updates on our MLS rules. So I am Vanessa Gamp, your president this year, and I'm joined today by our CTO, Jay Pepper-Martens.
Hi, everybody.
So just a quick reminder, a little housekeeping. This is going to be our listen and learn session. So this is not the interactive training. We are going to be doing 2 of those this week and next week. So fear not. But for today, you'll just be able to listen to information from us. And yes, this will be recorded. So this will be available later on today and into the future on our YouTube channel. So we're going to do a quick statement here just to get us started.
Sorry, it flipped screens on me again, Vanessa, just a second.
No
Yeah,
problem.
you can read from that one while I get it flipped around.
All right. So this is just a reminder. This is SFAR's antitrust policy statement. So SFAR strives to increase competition in the marketplace and will not be a forum for anti-competitive conduct. The SFAR antitrust policy governs the activities of the association, its member volunteers, and leadership. A copy of the policy is included in meeting materials. It'll also be available online, and it is available on our dashboard. So please consult an SFAR staff liaison to discuss if you have any questions about the policy. So with that fun intro, Jay, are you ready to get things started today?
Yeah, I think we're ready to go. Okay.
Okay.
So welcome, everyone. Right now, some of you are probably wondering why new rules. I bet you've all been following the news a bit, so you'll understand most of this, but I will share the following. The terms of the settlement required that we implement the changes on or before August 17th, but we're going to be launching it a little early. Our plan is to put the system in place on the 12th. And the reason for that is the 12th is a Monday. That's going to give us the full week to have all of our support resources available. We're going to be able to answer questions. And should there be any unintended system consequences, we'll be able to quickly patch those. There's also going to be other requirements that aren't in the MLS, and those all become mandatory on the 17th, on or before the 17th. And it's possible that your brokerage will give you some guidance on changes that you might want to make to how you do business. But the system is going to be released on the 12th. That's going to mean changes to the user interface we're going to show off today. We'll be live on the 12th. And yeah, and then we'll carry on from there. So just because commissions are no longer permissible in the MLS doesn't mean you're not allowed to talk about them at all. In fact, you're supposed to talk about things like compensation and commission, and you're supposed to do it with your clients and with each other and to directly communicate with one another. Just the MLS will no longer be the primary vehicle for that. Vanessa, what should agents think about when they're talking to clients? This is an area where the MLS really isn't dictating anything.
Yeah. So as all of you know, us here at SFAR, we are here to support the realtor community. And a lot of what we're doing with the MLS is supporting you with data and access to the data. What we cannot do is tell you what you should or shouldn't say to your clients or give brokers advice on how to coach their agents. But luckily, there is lots of support. If you are an agent, you yourself can go to the NAR or the CAR websites. They have tons of information there. They are running free classes if you would like to take them. You can learn scripts through CAR, lots of training available there. And then, of course, your local brokers are also doing their own education. So you can always go to your sales manager or your broker if you have questions about what you would like to speak about with your clients. Today, we're going to cover what you can and cannot do in the MLS systems.
Right on. So we've also been publishing informational updates on our solution space. And if you have noticed this dark blue banner at the top of the dashboard, you can always click on it. And between now and when we go live, you'll always be able to get new and most recent news about the settlement. or if there's been any pivots or changes. I mean, this thing has been a little challenging to follow. So there's an opportunity there for you to read a timeline and see how things have evolved over time. So don't miss that. It's an easy way for you to stay really informed. So we'll do a quick rules and regs change review. And in this review, we're going to look at the new rules that we've implemented in our local MLS rules. And these rules have been adapted from terms of the settlements. There's some clauses that have been included from NAR model rule or from CAR model rule. We've also been able to coordinate a little bit with our partners in the Bay Area to make sure that while we cannot ensure that it's identical rules, they're close enough that they're semantically usable with one another. So whatever the rules are here are going to be pretty close to exactly what you're going to find in the other MLSs. Not word for word, but in all cases, semantically similar. And then how does that affect the MLS interface? Well, there's two major changes. There's a new checkbox option that will be at your disposal to use or not at listing input. And we've also got a warning message that's going to appear when you post your listing. And it will have a link in it to the MLS rules. And it's going to remind you, hey, the ways of doing business have changed. Please be aware of these changes when you post your listing. There's a really great 3-page summary of all the exact text of the rules that are being changed. The link to that will appear shortly, either in this chat or it will be provided to all members in a direct mail out this week or next week. And it highlights some of the key things you're going to want to really make sure you understand before you go sign that next listing agreement or get ready to make an offer. So we're enforcing these rules because we are covered as part of the settlement. We are doing keyword searches in the MLS. So while you're doing a listing input, you're typing away, most of the text fields now will scan for you and they'll give you some feedback on words that may or may not be problematic. It's up to you to review them. There's going to be a checkbox now at the top of the listing where you will be able to say credits to buyers considered. And now, Vanessa, my understanding is that forms from CAR went live today and that those forms have changed how the offers of compensation and stuff work. So this is our checkbox to maintain compatibility with different ways that people might write agreements and also to let agents have the ability to specify or not specify what they want to do on listing input. But
Correct.
from
I
what I
think
understand,
SFAR, I was just going to say, I think SFAR did a really good job of making this simplified. So as a listing agent, when you take a listing using the new CAR forms, there is a brand new MLS disclosure. And when you're
right,
taking the listing, you're going to fill out on the disclosure whether or not the seller will be considering buyer credits. And that line says credits to buyer considered. So if you, the listing agent, have checked that box in the MLS disclosure, when you log into SFAR's MLS and you input your listing, you will check that box in our MLS as well.
excellent. And once you've done finished posting your listing, you're going to get prompted for a second to do a confirmation. And it's going to have some language in it that says something along the lines of new rules are in effect. You can click here to read the rules. Just please be aware that compensation information doesn't go in the MLS anymore. The exact language will get sort of decided right up to launch. It'll be short and sweet, and it will just remind you what's going on. So these new rules got published this week on the 22nd. We're doing the webinars and town halls this week. And the effective date when all these rules become mandatory is August the 12th. And yes, this is 5 days ahead of when the settlement mandated that changes needed to be made. But that date in the settlement was a Saturday. And so, as I said earlier, we're trying to get this to you on a Monday so we have the whole week to support you. That way, if we find some unintended consequences, we're going to be able to help you and react. So we're going to do a fun segment now here where we'll talk about what is and isn't allowed under some of the new rules. I'm going to pose some hypotheticals, and then we're going to step through them. And then at the very end here, you'll see there's a table with a couple other cases. Hopefully this is entertaining. So if I accidentally put an offer of compensation in the listing that I post to the MLS, is this allowed, not allowed, or is this a questionable decision, Vanessa?
I'm going to go ahead and guess that this is not allowed.
Good pick, good guess. And the reason why this is not allowed is because The compensation information can no longer be included in the MLS. And how we will help agents get through this is if we discover that it's been an accident, it's happened one time, we will notify the agent and their broker or sales manager, and they'll get a warning. They'll get one warning ever. Once they get that warning, if it slips in again after they've been educated on it, there's going to be a fine level. And that fine level will also result in no access to the MLS until the fines have been paid. And these fines really accelerate if it continues to be a repeated offense because the MLS is no longer a platform for compensation. Let's do one more. Okay, a
Before we
potential.
do one more,
Oh,
can I ask
yeah.
you a question?
Oh, sure, sure.
All right. Are we telling people's brokers and sales managers that they've broken a rule to try and get them in trouble?
Oh, absolutely not. No, no, no. The reason why we want to make sure that other people in the office know is because then it becomes an opportunity for more than just one person to learn about the new scenario, and they can then share that information with other members on their team. We're trying to maximize the ability to get information into the offices and minimize the impact to additional agents and members.
Perfect. So if I'm on vacation and have accidentally done something that's broken the rules, this would allow my sales manager to go in and delete that information. So I'm no longer in violation.
100%. And of course, the broker of record can always also edit those listings. And I think we've got it set up so office managers can sometimes too, if it's been requested. So yes, if you're on vacation, it happened maybe before you left, maybe you're gone on sabbatical for a little while and someone else is managing that data, yes, they'll be able to help you and fix it.
Okay. And then my next question, I'm really glad that we get a one chance warning.
You do.
These fines are crazy. Are you just trying to make money off of me, Jay?
That's a great question. And no, we are trying to avoid ever having to cite one of these violations. We hope that our communication is going to be extensive and the materials that we're providing where it details this information will help people realize that there really isn't a second chance here. We do have to comply and we just need to work together to do it. This isn't a case where we're trying to do it to the agents. We're kind of all in this together and we're just trying to adapt to the situation as best we can all together.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, in our second hypothetical, we've got a potential buyer that walks into your open house, Vanessa, and you're unsure if they have a buyer broker agreement with their client. So you ask them if they have one, and they say no. Can you show them the house anyway?
I'm going to say maybe.
Maybe. That's a really great guess. There's some context here. And this is an area where you're going to have some real expertise. And I know you know a little about this. So if it's okay, I'm going to let you explain.
Yeah, no problem. So, if you've been attending the CAR informational sessions, you've probably already learned this. There is not a requirement at open houses. So, if it's a public open house specifically, for every single person walking in the door to have a signed agreement in order for you to show the house on behalf of the seller. So if you are hosting the open house as the listing agent or the showing agent completely on behalf of the seller, then anyone can come in with or without a signed agreement. If you would like to have a sign-in sheet, CAR is recommending that that is best practice. It is not required, but it is best practice to do so. And there's a form for that if you would like to use it as part of the new CAR forms rollout. The only time that this answer of maybe might change to a no is if you're working this open house in hopes of picking up new buyer clients. And during the conversation to talking to the general public, your role is switching from showing the property on behalf of the seller to converting the buyer into a client and speaking to them on behalf as an agent. So if that is the case, then yes, you're going to want to have a contract signed, whether that's the buyer broker's agreement or the new form, the property showing and representation agreement, which is just a non-exclusive document that allows you to show the property without the client being locked in as your client and you their agent.
So let me get this straight. I came to your open house, Vanessa, because I saw a sign outside and it looked cool. I thought I'd
Mhm.
come in and maybe I really am looking for a home in that neighborhood. You look around, it's cool. You answer some questions about this property. We're all good. But then I say to you, Vanessa, do you know of any other properties that are just like this? Could you actually help me find things that are similar? Because I need something just like this, but with 3 bedrooms. What happened there?
Yeah. So at that point, I'm going to say absolutely. If that's something that you would like to do, there's a couple of steps that we would have to take. And one of those would be to sign an agreement so we could agree upon our relationship as
Okay.
agent and client and how I'd be compensated.
Oh, cool. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. It's when I start asking questions or when you start offering to take me to those other properties that are on that are a part of your business or someone
Correct.
else has got it. Okay. Let's do a next one here. I put a document with an offer of compensation in my disclosure package, which I then host on DIO, and then I link that from the MLS. All the disclosures IO links are in the MLS. So is that okay to have that in my disclosure package?
Ooh, tricky one.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say if I'm using Disclosures IO, which is in the MLS, then it's not okay.
Good guess. And that's 100% true. There's a section in the rules that says you cannot directly or indirectly link. And because Disclosures IO is a third party product, but it's got links in the MLS, if you put it in there, you will be de facto linking it back to the MLS system, which would not be allowed. So if we discover that Disclosures IO compensation packages, sorry, Disclosure IO disclosure packages have compensation forms in them, that we would have to ask you to remove those. And as a pro tip, if you plan to use DIO, just fine, we strongly recommend you don't put them in the package that you're linking in DIO, but you might have a second identical disclosure package or something that's never linked to the MLS, a clean version, if you will, that you might send directly to agents, and that would be okay.
Yeah, that's very similar to what many of us agents already do, say using branded or unbranded floor plans. So, as agents, we might get very used to having two versions of open house flyers if you would like to share offers of compensation on open house flyers at your open houses.
So that makes sense. There's going to end up being like two versions of a few things. Hey, so there's I think that's something that it sounds like agents already manage a little bit. So hopefully that's not a huge change in sort of the way of thinking.
Right.
Okay, I post my offer of compensation on XYZ portal or website where other agents are also posting all of their offers of compensation together. Am I okay to do that?
Sounds convenient, but also sounds like breaking the rules. So, I'm going to say no.
That's a good guess again. Yes. We are also not allowed to create de facto compensation and offers of compensation platforms outside the MLS. So posting them together with combinations of other businesses' offers would be a breach of the terms of the settlement. If we discover that one of these portals that may spring up and that is doing it is also taking data feeds from the MLS, we have an obligation to terminate those data feeds. And if we find out that a participant was helping build that website, we have an obligation to interact with that participant and get them to no longer have MLS access. That's pretty heavy.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like this one might actually be the biggest, strongest rule that has to be followed.
That's right. Is
No.
the creation of like an identical MLS, but except outside the MLS with all those offers, that would not be good. The last one is kind of a question that extends from that, though. It's I have a single property website that I maintain. It has just my listing on it. It's visible to the public. Can I state my offer of compensation on that website?
So this sounds convenient, but I think it's following the rules. So I'm going to say allowed.
That is allowed. And again, what it comes back to is you're only looking at your own listing data. So you can do a lot of things with your own listing, including put it on your property website, state some offer of compensation to the buyer side. But if you do so, remember that if you also take the link to that single property website and you're using it as one of your links in the MLS, that's
Mm,
created that link again.
right.
Yes. And if you do create that link, it then becomes part of the MLS, and then therefore you have to remove the offer of compensation. So, Vanessa, is this sort of like we were talking flyers before? Are there branded and unbranded versions of single property websites?
There can be.
There can
Uh,
be.
So maybe your local brokerage's website versus if I have a listing on 123 Main Street, I can also buy 123mainstreet.com.
Right. So if you did buy 123mainstreet.com and you wanted to put your offer of compensation on it, you just wouldn't use that URL when you post it in the MLS.
Correct. Not in the private remarks and nowhere else.
Good stuff. Okay, so that concludes our sort of interactive Q&A. We've got some resources here that we want you to know about. So CAR has a number of forms. I think these all released today. You got your open house, visitor, non-agency disclosure. That was the thing for the open houses, right, Vanessa?
Yes, so that's the sign-in form. If you want to use one that CAR has created and vetted, that is one that is open for anyone to utilize.
And optional.
Correct.
And then if I did start asking you about what other homes you could show me that maybe you have access to in the MLS, that's where the property showing and representation agreement, I think, gets used. Is that right?
Yeah, that's kind of a way to remain compliant as an agent, but without being so connected to the potential client that you're in a legally binding contract. So it's a non-exclusive agreement. You can only show them up to 3 properties, and it only lasts for 30 days. So it's a great
That's
way for someone to
yeah,
try out a realtor.
that's really handy. The other one that you mentioned before is if you're going to sign a listing agreement on the weekend coming up, you might have to do a addendum of some kind.
Yes. So the new CAR listing agreement also has a multiple listing service MLS addendum. And that is where, if the seller would like to offer buyer compensation, there's a box that you check there, and then you would know to check that box in the SFAR MLS.
Awesome. And then I think the bottom one is that sort of full top to bottom buyer broker representation agreement that you'd use if you want to do that longer term thing with your client, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Once a potential client knows that they would like to work with you, this is how you sign an agreement and agree on your compensation so that you can just work freely together.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to have some increased support resources over the next upcoming weeks. And when we go live on August the 12th, we're going to be here for you. We're going to answer your emails. We're going to pick up the phone. We're going to provide support. And we're going to keep those support resources in place, at least for the first weekend, where we're currently open from around 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. To be able to help you if you encounter something unexpected in that first weekend of August 17th and 18th. And on a leadership side, Vanessa, I know we're going to look at this thing pretty closely. One thing people seem to have been nervous about is what if we got one of these upcoming rules slightly wrong? Or what if CAR got it wrong and we implemented it? So, what are we going to do internally as a leadership team?
Yeah, so we just want everyone to know that we have changed our rules to the best of our ability, consulting our outside counsel as well as our own set of antitrust attorneys to make sure that we are following the way the settlement was outlined as much as possible. But if you are somebody that perhaps did read the entirety of the settlement, you might notice that there's a lot of vagaries. And so we just want you all to be assured that as this progresses, if we learn as an industry that something needs to be changed, if something isn't working, if other associations perhaps are being flagged for breaking rules and we have something similar, we will pivot. We are going to do as best we can to make sure that your businesses are not affected and our MLS can remain open and operational.
Awesome. Okay, the last thing we want to make sure you're aware of is that CAR is offering some classes. So maybe if you want to know how to use some of the buyer representation forms or the new residential listing agreement package that they've got, you should scan this QR code and go and check it out. It might, I think on the page, Vanessa, it says you have to pay for it, but is there some way to get it for free, right? You have to do something?
Yes. So if you take a moment right now and you can scan the QR code that's on there, it will give you the directions on how to sign up. It's very straightforward. You do need to be logged into your CAR account.
All right. Yes, and then I think there's one other step you do to get the package for free.
Oh, what is
I
that
think there's
one
like a
other
step.
step?
Yeah. And then, so I mentioned at the middle of the presentation that we've got this little checklist that we can fly through. Let's do some more scenarios, Vanessa, and we won't make these ones super long. Let's just do some yes, nos. So some
Yeah,
fun ones in here are the, can I put offers of compensation on open house flyers? Yes.
yes. And can I make offers of compensation on the phone? Absolutely. Phone call
Awesome.
or text.
Sweet. Can I send email blasts? Yes.
Correct. Am I required to have a sign-in sheet at my open house? No, but CAR is recommending best practice.
And am I required to have those buyer broker agreements at my open house? I think we pretty clearly explained that you don't have to have them except if the language really changes.
Right. And can I work with buyers without having a buyer broker agreement signed with them? Unfortunately, no longer.
No longer. Can I post offers of compensation on social media sites? And this is an area where we're just advising some caution. So if you're just viewing your listing and you want to post it and you want to make an offer there, great. It's, I think, where you might get into trouble is private groups or groups at all on Facebook where people will be posting each other's commissions and creating platforms. So just, exercise real caution on social media networks. You're okay to do stuff with your own data, though.
Correct. And can I put offers of compensation in my off-MLS disclosures? So this is another one where you're being careful. So yes, you may absolutely, if you have an offer of compensation, you want to put it in your disclosures. If you are not using Disclosures.io, completely fine. Or if you're using another platform, just make sure you do not put the link in the MLS. Agents will have to contact you directly for a shared link in order for you to be compliant.
Right on. Can I hide the compensation offer in a text field somewhere in the listing? No. And we're going to be scanning for these. We've got tools to help you stay in compliance.
Correct. Can my brokerage's website show all of the listings for our company with offers of compensation on all of them? Yes, but the links to the site cannot be in the MLS. So when you are writing your listing description, please don't put gamprealty.com on there if you have all of the listing with compensation on the website.
Right on. So that's another one that's yes, but, right? Be careful. And the extension to that is, can my brokerage's website, the one from above, show the compensation offered by other brokerages on those listings on my site? And no, because this would be creating that portal that essentially replicates the functionality that's being removed, and you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Can I post offers of compensation on my open house? Yes, absolutely. Go for it if you would like to.
Cool. And if agents show up at your open house, I mean, that's going to be a great opportunity to discuss those things.
Yes.
And then you could even go ahead and make a QR code that goes to your single property website, and there can be offers of compensation on that website. But again, just make sure you're not linking that particular website in the MLS so that it doesn't create that de facto link.
And last but not least, can I put negotiated commissions in the comments of my listing when it closes? So after it's sold. And the answer to that is no. You
One
can,
thing, yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
I think we have the same idea. You
Yep.
can, of course, if there were buyer credits as part of the sale, you can list with the entirety of what the credits were. What you cannot do is break out that X amount of credits went to replacing the roof and Y amount of credits went to a buyer's agent's commission. If you're going to list anything, any sort of concessions, it is just a single total number.
Perfect. Well, that's all of the content that we wanted to deliver today. I know that on, I think it's Friday of this week, we're going to do a much more interactive one. That's going to be super fun. That one's going to have the Q&A open and the chat window will be open. We'll cover some of the same material again, but that I'm super looking forward to doing with all of our members.
Yes. So that's this Friday at 10 a.m. You are welcome to register if you haven't already. And certainly we are trying to do our best to make sure that we have tons of support for you. So we have beefed up the man and woman power on our phone lines. We have beefed up our hours. We're offering weekend coverage for this weekend. And Jay, if somebody is desperate to reach out to us, has a question, really stressed, what is the fastest way to get a hold of someone?
It's actually email. It still is. Get that email into the queue. That thing we see, everyone on the team sees it, and our membership resources will also be looking at the MLS queue. Once we go live with this thing on the 12th, it really will be all hands on deck. Email is the fastest, and it lets us triage also, where we can see if something's going to like end the world, we may address that first. And if this is going to be something we can defer for an hour, we'll get to that when we get to that. But the email queue really is the best. MLS at sfrealtors.com. HUD's going to put that in the chat window. And it's really your one point click. You can always just email it. MLS at sfrealtors.com.
Perfect. And I know from firsthand experience that just because I've sent an email doesn't mean the only way that your team will respond to me is by email. You have multiple ways of getting back to us and communicating so that everyone is going to feel super supported, no matter high tech or low tech that they might be.
Right on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm just going to ask everyone once again to keep reading the posts that we do. Keep yourself educated on any announcements that we have. We are sending tons and tons and tons of information to your brokers. So you can also use your broker and your sales manager as a resource. And of course, don't forget that magical blue banner at the top of the dashboard anytime you log in to SFAR MLS. All of the information that we covered today is going to be linked in there as well.
And just the last look at some resources on the dashboard. So when you're logged in and you're on the main MLS dashboard, if you want, you can click on the rules, which will be available here. The SFAR rules and regulations have now been updated and point at the newest one. So you can get to see all the rules there. We've also got a really handy change log that's available for you. So if you're in the MLS itself and you want to go under links to documents, you'll see that there's a specific one there with the changes all called out for you about the settlement. So you go links and documents. And there it is. It's the guide to the settlement change. And this will load up a PDF that or a website that shows you all the rules that have changed and some call outs so you know what's most critical. So go take a look at those resources, and I'll put this in the chat window too.
All right. So we're all in this together. We're doing our best to support all of you. I know that some of these rules have been rough, but it's happening to all of us. So we're trying to make sure that we can do things as smoothly as possible. So great job, everyone. Let's remember, deep breathing, keep calm, and sell on.
Awesome. Thanks for your help today, Vanessa. This is great.
Thanks, Jay. Take care.
Bye-bye.